Hi everyone, my name's Denice Ross, and I'm a Public Interest Technology Fellow at New America, and recently left the White House where I worked with Megan Smith. On the left here on this photo is my colleague Clarence Wardell. We both began the Presidential Innovation Fellowship in the wake of the protests in Ferguson, Missouri. And soon afterwards, we pitched this idea that police departments could build trust with the community and answer activist calls for greater transparency by proactively releasing data about policing, data sets like use of force and officer-involved shootings. In this photo, we are being told that this idea will not work, that it would take years to build expert consensus on the data standards, and that there's no way that police departments would ever voluntarily release this data. But we knew better. We had seen that Dallas Police Department was already leading the way, and we thought maybe we could get 3 to 5 other jurisdictions to join us. And we were thrilled when a few months later, we had 14 cities committing to opening at least 3 data sets about policing. And we jumped forward to now we are actually at more than 130 police departments around the country who are participating. Thank you. Yeah. And they are participating in this peer-to-peer learning network where small agencies and large agencies are inspiring each other with their local innovations, and they're working together alongside their private sector partners to tackle the common challenges they face. Using this approach, they've collectively opened more than 175 data sets in just 18 months. Data sets like this traffic stop data out of Wallkill, New York, which is particularly relevant for those locals because they remember the times when officers used to illegally detain women in order to ask them out on dates. Data like this on force demographics from Danville, Virginia, which is a great starting place as they start the hard work of recruiting and retaining more women and people of color to serve on their force. And several jurisdictions now are publishing data, timely, detailed data on hate crimes that can inspire local action when it's needed most. And this is where it gets really exciting, when you see this data being used as a platform for community engagement and local action. Here we have 15-year-old Grace Clark. She's teaching the police chief in New Orleans how to write his first line of code. These young people, yeah, Grace is amazing. These young people were the first citizens to ever see NOPD data on use of force and citizen complaints. And this so inspired the police chief that he doubled down on his commitment to transparency. Citizen satisfaction with policing in New Orleans increased by 16%. And a very tough federal judge described New Orleans' data work as a, quote, miraculous transformation. Buoyed by New Orleans' successes, Orlando hosted domestic violence victims advocates, civic techies, and police officers to discuss the best way to balance the value of open data for domestic violence advocacy with the need to protect victim privacy. And Tucson, Arizona followed suit. They brought in traffic safety advocates and neighborhood leaders and police officers to dive into data on distracted driving. So we are at a turning point, a tipping point for police data transparency, where it's becoming the new normal in being a modern police department. If you'd like to learn more about the great work happening around the country, visit policedatainitiative.org. And if you'd like to talk to me about the best way that your company or organization can contribute to this movement, please reach out to me on Twitter at Denice W. Ross. And now I'd like to shift from open data to a different angle that my colleague Kelly Jin is using in the criminal justice system.
Thank you guys very much. My name is Kelly Jin. I am a Leslie Knope in training and also a recovering government employee. I just wrapped up at the White House about 2 weeks ago. I'm really excited because I'm now at the Laura and John Arnold Foundation, really continuing a lot of this criminal justice work that Megan talked about. So, if I were to ask you what our 3 largest mental health facilities in this country were, you would probably say hospitals, and I've tried before. And you would be 100% wrong. So in our country, our 3 largest mental health facilities are jails. This is LA County, this is Cook County, which is where Chicago is located, and this is New York City. And when you look at the numbers in our country, if you just go back one slide, if you look at our numbers in our country, they are crazy. Every time I go to talk to a different audience, over 11 million people cycling through 3,100 local jails, costing individuals and their families a lot in human outcomes, but also costing us as taxpayers at minimum $20 billion a year, at minimum. And the numbers, I could keep going, but I don't have that much time. The numbers are also staggering when you actually look at those individuals with mental health illness. So 64% have a mental illness in jail. You can just look at these numbers. They're quite staggering. And so what we said is, how do we actually go about and figure out what is actually working in our country? Because some people must be doing some things. So we went out and we talked to Miami-Dade. Megan talked a little bit about Scout and Scale. What Miami-Dade was able to do is they were able to connect their information and find 97 people who had been costing the county over $13 million in services and had spent 39,000 days in institutions, in jails and in emergency rooms and in other mental health institutions. If you guys, like, your jaws have not dropped on the floor at this point, come talk to me after. And so what we were trying to do is, how do we continue to figure out, A, what are other communities that are having these issues, but also B, what are people doing about it? So in Miami-Dade, once they implemented a few things like how do we actually connect our law enforcement and our mental health data, they were able to implement a few measures like open up jail beds so that individuals could cycle through. They could also figure out ways to better train their police officers. And as a result of that, jail population fell, and they were able to close a jail entirely, saving them over $12 million a year. And when we go out and we talk to communities over and over and over again, they all raise their hands and they all say, these are all things that we are struggling with across the country. It doesn't matter if you're a red or blue state. And so what we've done is we've built out the Data-Driven Justice Initiative over the last year. It is now 140 communities, like I mentioned, bipartisan communities, including 10 states, really on how do we divert low-level offenders with mental health issues into the treatment that they actually need. Crazy, right? And so I will close with a few pieces here, which is that, what are we going to do about it? I'm talking to all of you in the room. I'm talking to a lot of people online. It is a huge group effort. Megan Smith is in this photo, along with Denice. It is a huge group effort because we cannot do it alone. We have to figure out ways that we can involve our police officers, our data scientists, our lawyers, doctors, policy wonks, developers, organizers, citizens, all of you to run at these issues. Because everything that I'm hearing in this conference, everything that I've heard from all of the other speakers is that we can't do it alone, right? We need each other. We need each other as communities. And so I'm really, really excited to really give this call to action to all of you, which is that we're doing our work. But how do you guys plug in? How do we plug into this broader ecosystem, not only on criminal justice, but on tackling our nation's biggest challenges? And so please look us up online. It's the Data-Driven Justice Initiative. Come talk to me. I'm super, super excited to be speaking to all of you, and thank you very much.